We recently talked about food and mood and how that might impact your weight. If you didn't see that, be sure to seek it out. Hi, I'm Amanda Clark, dietitian and author and creator of Portion Perfection. Now, what we found last time was that there's not much point seeking weird and wonderful food combinations or supplements to modify your mood if you're not consuming the basic balanced diet in the first place, because the answer might really lie right there. It is possible that by eating a balanced diet that you feel less cravings or less non-physical hunger, which would help you feel more in control. It's worth applying because there's plenty of other benefits to be had from meeting your nutritional needs. Now, if you are covering your nutrient needs and still experiencing mood issues that don't seem to relate to thoughts or circumstance, then it's absolutely worth exploring the food connection a little further. Now, one place to focus is on your carbohydrate intake. We saw last time that you need tryptophan to make serotonin, and you find tryptophan in most protein foods. You might have also heard that some other foods contain tryptophan. Now, the best sources include oats, bananas, prunes, milk, tuna, cheese, bread, turkey, peanuts, and chocolate. Tryptophan is used by the body for a variety of things, mainly making muscle, but also making the brain chemical serotonin. You actually find tryptophan in the smallest concentration in the human body out of all the 20 amino acids. So our ability to make sufficient serotonin is, or could be, at risk. Tryptophan also competes with all those other amino acids to cross the blood-brain barrier, and it's already getting lost in the crowd of amino acids in the bloodstream. So how can you give tryptophan a competitive advantage to get across that blood-brain barrier to be made into serotonin? Well, it's long been thought that eating foods high in tryptophan would be helpful, but it turns out that it's not, because many of those foods, like the turkey and the chicken and the cheese and the tuna and the milk, are high in protein. So they're high in all the amino acids. So not only are you adding more tryptophan, you're also adding all those other amino acids. So it doesn't really help with that lost in the crowd scenario. Something that can be beneficial is carbohydrate. Now, carbohydrate triggers the release of insulin, and insulin has an effect on all the amino acids except tryptophan. It causes the other amino acids to shift temporarily out of the way, leaving a relative abundance of tryptophan ready to cross that blood-brain barrier and be made into serotonin. Now, you might have noticed a calming effect on your mood from carbohydrate foods, and that's likely to be because you're making more serotonin. So let's just trace that back again. Let's say you eat something high in sugar, which is a carbohydrate, that gives you quite a high spike in your insulin. So say you eat jelly beans, your insulin rises. Other amino acids start to move out of the way. You've got a relative abundance of tryptophan. Tryptophan crosses the blood-brain barrier, you make more serotonin, you feel good. The problem here is that you've reached that very high level of serotonin quickly, and it's going to wear off and it's going to start to fall, and that's when you might feel a little irritable and develop cravings for more sugar to get you back to the peak. You might recognize this as wild mood swings. So you see, sugar can work, but it's not the answer. The way to get rid of the lows is to get rid of the highs and go for a more balanced effect. If you use low glycemic index or low GI foods, you can get a more moderate effect and consistent effect on your mood that is more sustainable without the peaks and troughs. There are actually a lot of benefits to choosing low GI carbohydrates, so it's been one of the criteria for everyday foods in the Portion Perfection book from the very start. If you're unfamiliar, the glycemic index, or GI, is a rating of carbohydrate foods as to how quickly they raise your blood sugar. Everything is compared to straight glucose, which is assumed to have the fastest absorption because there's no digestion needed. You actually start absorbing it through the lining of your mouth. It's given a GI of 100, and then everything else is compared to that. So, foods like the jelly beans raise your blood sugar very quickly and are said to have a high GI. For jelly beans, the number of the GI is actually 78. So it's not quite as high as straight glucose. It's 78% as high as glucose. Foods with a GI of 55 or less are said to be low, between 55 and 69 are medium, and greater than 70 is a high GI food. So jelly beans are high, and they will contribute to the highs and lows that we talked about. So let's have a look at low GI foods. I'm going to refer you back to your Portion Perfection book, whether it be the purple or the orange, and you'll find this chart. So bread, both wholemeal and white bread, have a relatively high GI, whereas whole grain breads make it into the low. In the breakfast cereal line, generally the more fibre and the less sugar, the lower the GI. For biscuits, cakes and muffins, look for the presence of fruit or whole grains like oats. Most fruit is fine. Watermelon is higher, but certainly fine in a fruit salad. Rice tends to have a high GI. The lower options are basmati or brown rice. All types of pasta are low GI, and most dairy products are low GI even when there's sugar added, except ice cream, which seems to vary quite a lot. There's also something called the glycemic load, which essentially means that a small amount of a high GI food won't cause a high insulin response, which makes sense. One jelly bean won't cause the swings, and a large amount of a low GI food could still spike your blood sugar. So for example, grapes, which have a GI of 53 based on a standard serving of about a cupful. But if you eat a lot more, your blood sugar could go up and cause that spike. So maintain some portion control. And if you are in a cycle of craving sweet foods to feel better and then experiencing that slump, you could try to work your way out of it with some foods in a snack-sized portion that have some sweetness, but that don't give you that insulin spike. Most of the snack choices in the everyday section of Portion Perfection will work. So think about a 100-gram flavoured low-fat yogurt, or a 100-gram custard, one slice of fruit toast, or a small glass of flavoured milk, or just a piece of fruit. They will raise your insulin, but in a more measured approach. So you get the taste you're seeking, plus a bit of the rise that could make you feel better. You can maintain those healthy levels of serotonin by balancing your carbohydrate intake at meals. So there, we're aiming for you to fill 1/4 of your plate with sweet potato, brown rice, pasta, quinoa, peas or corn. It's easy to get started. If you don't have your Portion Perfection starter kit yet, take action now and start feeling better. And if you like our input, follow us on social media or visit our store. And I'll see you next time.